Well, welcome back. In the last session, we've talked about structuring the article, and in the one before that, we wrote an abstract. So we're already on the way to writing our journal article. And if this is your first one, I'm hoping this is helpful for you to try and get a journal article that can be published and get you on the way with your academic career. As I've said earlier, when I started working in the university sector, I was not one who liked writing at all. I tried to avoid writing. When I went through university, I chose subjects which had exams and not assignments, because I'd rather do an exam or have something or write a report, anything other than writing an article. And I've had to learn how to write, and now I've got quite a few publications by just trying to go through some good writing habits and sticking to things that have worked well. So at this point, I've stopped going on about your particular article, and I want to just have some general thoughts and ideas about good writing habits. To be able to write journal articles can be a bit soul destroying sometimes, in that it can take a long time. It can be hard sometimes, particularly if you're writing in not your first language. So you have to develop some good habits that help you get there. And this is true whether you're writing your first article or you're writing your 100th article. So here's some advice. Now, this is just things that have worked for me and the ways that I work, and there could be other ways of doing it. You've got some very experienced people in your university, including Dr. Hubbardin and your Dean, Professor Suono, and others who can always help you as well. And I'd be asking them how they do it and what works for them. But these are just some good writing habits that I've found have been successful for me. And this is the first point, which is more important than anything else. You will never have anything published if you don't write anything. Now, that might seem obvious, but it's absolutely critical. You have to write something. You have to write. Even if you think it's terrible, you need to start writing. Because as we write articles, we write and we rewrite them and we rewrite them and we go over and over them again. You don't have to write the polished, finished product first, but you do have to write. And sometimes what we can do is we can get caught up, I just need to read a bit more. I just need to go to the library and look at something else. I just need to. Whereas sometimes you just need to sit down and write. Get your computer out and write. If you forget everything else, this is the most important thing. For me, I try and write for at least 1 hour every day. But you have to write. No excuses. So here's the outline of things I want to talk about. The first habit I want to talk about is finding a writing time. The second thing I want to talk about is some habits or tips that work for me and I've seen work for others. And then the third one I want to talk about is getting some writing support. So, writing time. The first thing I want you to think about is, when are you at your best? Now, we're all different. Some people are morning people, some people are good in the afternoon, some people stay up late at night because they're what we call in Australia night owls. They come alive at night time and they can work really well. We're all different. For me, I tend to be a morning person. And what that means is, when I try and do my writing, I try and do it in the morning, because I know that's when I'm at my sharpest. Are there any days when you're better than others? For me, I'm much better on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday than I am on a Friday. By Friday, I'm getting tired. So I try and do my most important writing and my hardest writing tasks on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday in the morning, because that's when I'm at my best. So what I think you need to do is, when you think about when you're at best, call that your writing time. And then the next thing you need to do is put it in your diary or calendar as an appointment. So probably like most of you, I have an electronic diary on my Outlook calendar, and in there you'll find appointments. Mine are always 2 hours, and it's just called writing. And it's the same appointment in there as if I was teaching a class or had a meeting with colleagues. It's not negotiable, it's in my diary, and then I stick to it. And when I get to it, I write. But it's in my calendar. And so this is my challenge to you, and we'll get to it a bit later. Put writing time in your calendar. Don't just do it when you feel like it. Do it when you're at your best and when you can fit it in, but put it in as an appointment that is not negotiable. The second thing is using your time well. Make the most of your quality time. Now, sometimes I get a whole day when I'm free to do writing. So what I find is, though, I'm at my best quality time is in the morning from about 9 o'clock till about 12 o'clock. For me, when I get to the middle of the afternoon, I feel a bit sleepy and I often have a little nap. But I'm not the sharpest at about 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then at night time, I tend to wake up a bit more again. So when I'm at my best, that's when I do my most demanding work. So if I'm writing an article and I've got a really hard part to write, which normally would be related to the discussion and the conclusions, particularly the discussion, I'll try and write that in that slot in the morning. So between 9 and 12 in the morning, or probably even 9 to 11 in the morning, when I'm at my absolute best in terms of the sharpness of my thinking and quality of my work, that's when I write those hard things. And then in the afternoon, when I tend to be a bit tired or distracted, then I'll do things that are less demanding. So I might check my references. I might proofread my article. I might find bits and pieces that are missing. Things that don't require the same level of mental energy. But what I make sure is I don't waste that time in the morning when I am sharp checking references. It's a waste of your good time. Use that time to write. And also, I don't try in the afternoon when I'm tired to do some really heavy duty writing that takes a lot of thought, because it won't be good quality. I'm distracted. I'm not doing my best work. So using your time is really important. So the first thing is making sure you put time aside specifically for writing. You make appointments in your calendar. And then the second thing is you use your good time, your best time, to do the hardest and most significant work. And when you're a bit more tired or distracted, then you do the more mundane things like checking references and proofreading. So here's some writing habits for me. The first one is you just have to write. And what I mean by that is when you sit down to write, just get out your computer and just get it down. Don't edit as you go. Don't try and fix things. Don't go looking off for some reference you can't find. Just write it all down. You can't work with anything that's still in your head. You need to get it down into a document so you can start playing with them, the ideas and sorting them out. So I think it's really important to get all the ideas onto a document. Try not to get distracted. Now, when I do that, I just go straight out. I don't try and even proofread it. I don't fix spelling mistakes. I don't find references. And you can see at the bottom there, I've just written XXX. What that is where I know I've got to put a reference in or another idea, or I've missed something out. I just put XXX in it and then I keep going so it doesn't hold me up. And then in the afternoon, when I'm not so busy, not so sharp or not thinking so clearly, I'll go back and try and find all those XXXs. And in a Word document, it's easy. You just go Control F and find it. And then I replace them then. So when I'm writing, I'm in that, what we call it a flow, when you're just flowing and you're just getting all the ideas out. And then in the afternoon, I go back and try and fix them up. Or later on when I'm at other times. And I just look for those XXXs and say, oh, that's right, I had to put a reference there. I wonder what that is, and I'll go and find it and I'll come back and put it in. But you must write. Just sit there and write. Try and do it for an hour. If you did an hour every day, in 2 weeks you'd have an article written. The second thing I want to focus on is a little every day. And I've put some articles in for you to read, which will be listed in your workbook. But it's just about trying, and they're only 1 or 2 pages long, so they're easy to read, but it's about trying to find a little bit of time every day. If you try and find 5 hours to write a whole big section, there's two problems. One is it's really hard to find 5 hours. And the second thing is after a while you'll get tired and you'll be unproductive. So my suggestion to you is you try and find 1 hour every day, because 1 hour every day is much better than 5 hours on one day. Right, so this is what I do. I do 1 hour every day, or sometimes now I do 2 hours every day. Or for me at the moment, it's 2 hours on Monday, 2 hours on Tuesday, 2 hours on Wednesday, 1 hour on Thursday, and 1 hour on Friday. And in those 8 hours, I can usually write, if I do that for 2 weeks, I can write an article that's almost ready to submit. It might take you a bit longer if English isn't your first language or if you haven't done many, but you just find that time and use it every day, 1 hour every day. Put it in your calendar. So in 1 hour, you could probably write at least 1 page. And if you did that for 3 weeks, you'd have an article. In 1 hour, I can usually write 3 pages of reasonable quality work, which I'm going to go and fix up a bit later. But if I went in 1 hour, I can write 3 pages. In 2 hours, I can write about 5. And if I go for 3 hours, 4 hours, or 5 hours, I usually don't write much more. So try and find 1 hour every day. But also find what works for you. If you're the sort of person who just can spend all day writing, that's great. But I don't know many people who are like that. And then discipline yourself just to write. This is not reading time. This is not doing anything else time. This is just writing time. The next one is have a little goal. So when you sit down to write, know what you're going to write. Now you remember in the last video we talked about structuring your article. Before I sit down to write, I know what I'm going to do. So I don't open all 100 different documents or have different ideas going. I don't sit there for the first half an hour thinking, oh, what should I do? When I finish one day, I know, right, tomorrow I'm going to write the methods section. So when I come to the next day, I don't have to sit and think, what am I going to do? I say, that's right, I'm doing the methods section, and I go straight to it and start. So I've got a goal. My goal for today is to finish writing the methods section. And I'll know it quite well because I used the method when I wrote my research proposal or when I wrote my thesis. So I'm going to sit down and I'm just going to write it. You might read the other ones the night before just to refresh your memory, but don't sit there and read and go back and forth with your document. Just sit down and write it and have a goal and finish it. If I knew I was just writing the method section or maybe half the lit review or something like that, then I would sit there and I'd just go and do it and it's done. So that's what you do. Choose a particular section from your structure and have that as your goal and finish it. So something like writing the introduction would be a good goal for a 1 hour session. Or writing the first half of the lit review might be a good goal for a 1 hour session. And so when you're doing it for that 1 hour, don't get distracted by other ideas or tasks. Don't be reading your introduction and think, oh, I've got a good idea for the conclusion section. If you have and you need to, just write it down quickly, but keep going on the one thing you've set yourself as your goal to do. Now the next points I've got here relate to how you can do that. And the first one is have your writing spot. Some of you, that will be your office. You'll go into your office and you'll write. My suggestion is when you go into your office and write, put some sort of thing on the door that says unavailable, that you're busy. You don't want people knocking on your door. But make a habit of going to your writing spot every day. I have an office at home. I'm fortunate enough to have a spare room now that some of my kids have moved out, and that's where I have my desk and that's where I write. It's somewhere that should be conducive to work and not to sleep. So what I'm saying here is probably not on the couch is not a good spot. I find if I sit on the couch, I start getting tired and it's too comfy and I start drifting out. So you want a comfortable space, you want a fresh air space, you want somewhere where it's a nice place to be, but not full of distractions. The next thing is when you're writing, remember you're going to do drafts and then you're going to do redrafts and then you're going to go redrafts and on and on. The first version you write is not the final one you submit. You'll write through it several times. So when you write, don't write like you have to write the first one perfectly. Just get it down knowing that you'll come back and write through it again. The first draft is exactly that. It's not going to be perfect. It's just going to get the ideas down, and from there you will work on it again and again until you get it right. One of the books I wrote, the one I submitted, was draft 87. And if you do a journal article, normally it's at least the 6th or 7th draft, but sometimes the 10th draft that you submit. It doesn't mean you'll redraft the whole thing again, but you'll keep rewriting through and you'll shift bits around and you'll take things out and put them in. But don't feel like you have to write the perfect draft the first time. Just get it down. This is really important. For me, if I'm going to write, because I write on my computer where also my emails are and Facebook is and all sorts of things, the first thing I do when I start in the morning, I turn on my emails, I check my emails, I answer any I need to, I clear them, and then I turn my email off. I shut it down. I also turn off my phone, turn off Facebook, turn off WhatsApp, turn off everything else that you don't need for that 1 hour. This is only 1 hour of your life when you can be disconnected. But I suggest anything that would distract you from your writing, you turn it off. And I'm speaking from experience that that's the only way I know I'll focus, because as soon as I hear that ping on my phone or I see the little email symbol turn up in the bottom of the taskbar, I'll want to go and check it. So I turn it off. And it's only for an hour or two, and then I turn it back on again afterwards. So only have open documents that you really need for that writing for that hour. Don't have a whole pile of other documents open, other things. Just have the bare minimum you need for that hour. And not to sound like a broken record, but you just write and rewrite and rewrite. For your daily writing hour, make sure you don't spend it doing other things. Your writing hour, and even if you can do 1 hour every day a week, is not a time to plan your writing. That's important, but that's not for your writing hour. That's what you do before your writing hour. It's not a time to get prepared to write. So your writing hour is not when you get your computer set up and your notes ready or that. You've already done that before. And it's not when you think about writing. That's done before. And all those things are important, but when you have 1 hour a day when you just sit there and write, that's all you do. Now, finally, getting some writing support is really important. You'll get a lot more publications and you'll get better quality publications if you work with others to help you write well. The first thing is, if you are doing a PhD, then your supervisor should be writing with you and you should expect them to help you. You'll have to do the main work, but they'll write with you and their name should be on the article after yours. If you have a supervisor or at work or someone like that, or an academic supervisor or a mentor, ask to write with them. Ask for specific feedback at critical times. So don't just give them the whole article and say, what do you think? Write the introduction and say, I've written the introduction. What do you think? Can you give me some feedback? Does this make sense? Important people like Dr. Hubbardin and your dean or your head of your faculty are important people who are there to help you write and move on in your career. And you should ask for specific feedback. But just don't ask them general questions, ask specific feedback. Do you understand what I mean when I said this? The second thing is your writing group, and this is why we set them up right at the start. You shouldn't just be relying on your mentors and supervisors for support. You should be supporting each other. Read each other's drafts. Give each feedback on each other's drafts. Support and encourage each other. I've been working in the university for 20 years now, and I still have a writing group where we share our articles with each other and we read each other's work and we comment on each other's work. It's really important, and that's why we set them up at the start. And I hope you're all engaged in one and you keep working on that one. My writing group, we've been going for 7 years, and 1 or 2 people have changed, but mostly we've stayed the same. The last thing is you should co-author. If you're working with someone on a similar project, if there's 2 of you, we'll each plan 1 article and then co-author, and then when you're finished, you both get two articles. Just your name will go first on one and their name goes first on the other one. But co-authoring is a really good way where you don't have to carry the whole load yourself. So you might do the first draft through where you dump it through and then you give it to the next person and they'll come through and write through your work. But I really encourage you to co-author. About 80% of my articles and books have been co-authored. So, just to reiterate a really important point, you will never have anything published if you don't write anything. That's why your 1 hour writing slot every day is not for doing anything other than writing. Put it in your diary. And over the study group and tasks that are in there, it's about doing that. If you can do that and stick to it, you'll be surprised how quickly you can knock off a few articles. Thanks for listening. I hope it's been helpful. We'll be back next talking about actually writing different sections of the article. All the best.